we'll get started. If everybody would rise for the flag pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is the meeting of the Morrison County Planning Commission. The commission is made up of citizens from the 5 commissioner districts of the county. The purpose of this commission is to oversee the preparation of the Morrison County land use controls, hear and review applications, and offer recommendations for conditional use permits, interim use permits, subdivision plat approval, plan unit developments, rezones, and other matters to be considered by it under the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance. Our powers are established in state statutes, chapters 394.21 through 294.37. Conditional uses and interim uses are recommended for approval upon a showing by an applicant that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied. All questions must be answered in the affirmative in order for the Planning Commission to recommend approval for a CUP or an IUP unless conditions can be attached that bring the proposed use into compliance and mitigate the negative finding of fact. Conditions and restrictions may be imposed by the Planning Commission as deemed necessary to protect the public interest. After your public hearing is complete, you may leave if you wish. So we have one item on the agenda for the Planning Commission, and that is Carmen Goldsmith. So Carmen, if you'd want to come up to the podium. So we have Carmen Goldsmith, 23711 95th Avenue, Randall, Minnesota. Application for an interim use permit for a bed and breakfast and a small campground located in point of north half of section of southeast quarter of northwest quarter, section 4, township 130, range 30, Darling Township. So Carmen, if you just state your name for the record, please.
Carmen Marie Goldsmith.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on and have the staff report if Amy's ready with that.
I am, Mr. Chair. Again, this is an application for an after-the-fact interim use permit for a bed and breakfast and a conditional use permit for a campground. All of this is located in Section 4 of Darling Township. The ordinance reference for this request is Section 604.7, and that requires an interim use permit for a bed and breakfast, and Section 604.6 requires a conditional use permit for a campground. Here's a plat map of Darling Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the application received from the applicant. And then a site drawing also provided by the applicant. An aerial photograph of the parcel, along with some oblique imagery of the parcel. The applicant lives on this 20-acre property. A majority of the parcel is enrolled in an A-cub easement. The applicant attended development review team meetings to discuss the following: in April of 2019, to discuss dog boarding, grooming, and a training facility. In July of 2019, a bed and breakfast with campsites. The Land Services Office received a complaint that a bed and breakfast had been established. No permitting was on file for the use, and so a first notice of violation was sent. The applicant attended a development review team meeting on June 27th, 2022, and the applicant is now requesting an after-the-fact interim use permit to continue the bed and breakfast and a conditional use permit to establish up to 4 camping sites on the property. Public health campground licensing does not apply to this use since the number of proposed campsite is under the licensing threshold of 5. The property is served by 95th Avenue, and it is, I'm going to correct it, it's a bituminous township road. The property is within a rural residential neighborhood surrounded by forest and agricultural fields, and much of the surrounding area is also enrolled in an A-cub easement. And then here's an area map, and everything with the red cross hatching has been enrolled in an A-cub easement. The applicable comprehensive plan goals and objectives is agriculture, goal A2, objective 1. Local economic development, goal C1, objectives 1 and 8. Goal C2, objectives 1 and 2, 4, 7, and 14, and 19. 25 notices were sent. No comment was received prior to the public hearing. And then here are your interim use criteria questions, Mr. Chair, and your conditional use permit criteria questions would be the same. Mr. Chair, I do have a question for the applicant, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Public Health notified us that you had removed, that they had reached out to you and said that you needed to be, if you're gonna run a bed and breakfast, you need to be licensed by them. And so you had indicated that you were not going to operate as a bed and breakfast. So that certainly has some bearing on this request. If you pursue a bed and breakfast permit, you will need licensing with Public Health. So I think at this time, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the applicant to clarify what it is that she's actually going, or what her intent is for that part of it, so then our permitting follows what you're going to do, because they'll go hand in hand with Public Health. We can't permit you as a bed and breakfast on this side of things and then not license you on the Public Health side. So if you could maybe just clarify what your intention is?
Yeah, kind of the same thing I've been doing, just, I mean, it's essentially an Airbnb. I want to, it's a.
Could you
it's a-
pull the microphone a little
Sure.
closer, please?
Is that
Thanks
better?
very much. Yeah.
There. It's essentially an Airbnb, but it's also kind of a farm stay, so there's horses and there was goats. I've gotten rid of the goats, but may get a llama or something. And basically people come stay, they rent a room. I only have 2 rooms that I rent, and then they can explore the yard and the pond and basically get away from the city. Or a lot of people come for weddings or family reunions. But I'd like to make it a little more of an experience, so it's kind of, I want to keep the same environment of a peaceful place to just get away and someplace to stay in the area, but also have like the option of, I've had people come for a family reunion and there's not room for everybody at wherever it is, and so they've asked if they can put tents up, and that kind of stuff. So I'd like to be able to offer that option if somebody wants that. If it's popular, maybe I'd do a little bit more of the tents, not over the 4, but I'd probably advertise more for it. I've looked at doing kind of a couple glamping sites where I put up the tent for them or whatever, but not getting real big. But if it got to be where it was being booked all the time for tenting, then I'd get a porta potty or whatever. But at this point, it wouldn't be very often, so.
So, Mr. Chair,
Go
back to
ahead.
the bed and breakfast
Sorry.
part.
Sorry, I kind of explained. So the bed and breakfast, the biggest reason I had bed and breakfast listed was advertising, because on Google, all the search engines, like it comes up as lodging if you have it listed as bed and breakfast. But I do have like some fruit, snacks, that kind of stuff. And when I talked to Carmen, she sounded like that was okay, as long as it wasn't cut fruit.
Okay.
But as long as it was store-bought fruit and stuff like that, that was fine. So I don't really know, I don't know what the other option is, if it's not called a bed and breakfast, or.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
right now, so that's really the decision that needs to be made, is if we permit you as a bed and breakfast, you'll need to license with Public Health. Right now, if you want to, you can withdraw that portion of your application. And you can operate as an Airbnb. We don't regulate them at this time, but I think you've been told that may change in the past and may come into the fold of licensing at some point. But at this time, you would not need, if you're not going to operate as a bed and breakfast, you would not need permitting from us and or licensing. But then you'd have to make sure that you know where that line is.
Right,
As far as
right.
what you're offering. So I guess at this point, Mr. Chair, I'm asking you whether you want to withdraw that part of your application and just deal with the campground.
So Amy, before she answers that, could you clarify the difference between an Airbnb and a bed and breakfast?
Airbnb is really you're offering a room or the entire home to stay, but you're not offering any food. You're not preparing any food for anybody, serving food, and that's that line. And that's how we have it. So we regulate bed and breakfasts in the ordinance, but we don't regulate just if you're holding a room and they're on their own for all of their meal needs.
Okay, thank you.
So I have one more other question. If, I'm a little bit confused about, so if I got licensed for a bed and breakfast, but I wasn't actually serving food, I was just putting out food and, kind of serving food, but not preparing food, cooking food. Do you know, I suppose, she's not here, but I suppose,
No, I know she had that, she had reached out to you because she was made aware that you had applied for a bed and breakfast permit with us. So she
Right.
had reached out to you to clarify that. And so
Yeah.
I guess we're asking for that clarification from
right.
you, what you want to do. Because if you are granted a bed and breakfast or permit here, you will need to follow up with public health and license because you're holding yourself out as a bed and breakfast and we're permitting you as such.
Okay.
So that's really a decision only you can make as far as
Right.
the services you want to offer
right.
at the
right.
site.
Right, and I guess my only question with it, I wish I would have asked her, was if I would need to be licensed for what I was doing specifically in the bed and breakfast, or if I would need to have a whole new kitchen that was all whatever. So, so I guess for now, I would just go with the camping
Okay. So our,
or Airbnb. I
Okay.
don't know exactly what your other zoning
so Mr. Chair,
piece is for that.
Go ahead.
to clarify, do you want to amend your application then to withdraw the portion of the request that deals with the bed and breakfast and concentrate on the campground tonight?
Yeah, do I still need to be zoned for the Airbnb, like the short-term rental though?
No, we don't regulate those at this time. You may in the future, but not now. And that was part of the discussion in your development review team meeting. So at some point you may, but not now.
All right, yeah, I'll withdraw
did.
that then and go ahead with
Okay.
the other as long as everything's okay that I'm doing.
Okay.
And it sounds like it is from
It is,
everybody
from a
I've talked
zoning
to.
standpoint and from a public health standpoint, it is. Yes. Okay, so Mr. Chair, with that, then I think then the concentration can just be on the 4 campsites that the applicant is requesting to set up. Again, 4 does not meet the licensing threshold for public health. If and when a 5th unit would be offered, then that would kick that licensing requirement for public health.
Can I add something in there?
Yes, go ahead.
It was my understanding that I could have more spots than that, but I can't have up more than 4 tents.
You can offer 4 units, and each tent is a unit. So
Right,
if someone brings on and this is tiptoeing into public health licensing, which I'm not 100% versed in because it's not my specialty. But if someone brings a camper and their 8 children pitch 5 tents, you're over the threshold.
Right.
So it is each single unit. So if you're offering that out as 4 tent sites, then that's what it can be. If you're going to offer 2 camper, sites
I
where someone could
understand
set
all
up
that,
camper,
yeah.
and then 2, so it's 4 units.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure if I had 6 areas people could put tents, As long as there aren't tents in all of them, it's
That would be
okay.
something you'd need to clarify with public health because that's
That's
their.
what she had told
That's
me
their
before,
licensing
so.
territory there.
Okay.
Okay, for the record, we're gonna strike the applicant wishes to withdraw her application for the bed and breakfast portion and just stick with the campsites. So if you wanna add anything else or just kinda give us, the board here, a rundown of what you're really looking, I know you explained some of it, but if there's anything else, explain what your operation's gonna be or what you want it to be.
You know, I'm just trying to offer something that's unique, to draw people that wanna experience something fairly locally or traveling through or whatever that's more than a hotel. So, you know, I'd looked at a couple different things and I don't have any exact plan right now. I'm kind of artistic, so I just kinda, once I decide something and it looks like it will work, then I move forward with it. But one thing I'd looked at was, doing a little, kind of like a garden house. It's like a Dr. Seuss kind of garden house, but, you know, offering them, they could stay in it or whatever, that type of thing. So I may develop a couple of those spots, and if I did, I understand I need to go in and get permits for it and that kind of stuff. And then I'd keep a couple spots open that people could just put tents, so. But at
And-
this point, I'm not looking to grow any more than that, and if I did, I understand I need to come in or get a hold of, public health to,
Yeah, I know a guy that does that Airbnb and he has people from the city stay there and they do his chores for him. I thought about doing that, but they probably wouldn't last an hour.
they feed my fish.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we didn't have no correspondence, so is there anybody in the public? We'll open it up to public comment. Oh, I skipped my guys, but we'll still open up public comment, being I said it. Any public comment? Any public comment? It's the third time I asked, so there is no public comment. We'll close this portion of the meeting to public comment. So now we'll go to the planning commission. Sorry, I skipped over you guys.
No problem.
Okay. You guys have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Dave.
I guess I don't see the downside of public health licensing on this. Is it expensive? Is it, yeah, could you clarify that? Why you wouldn't just do it and, you know, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, that was a discussion point, and when you get into the campground licensing, your well water needs to be tested, you need to provide bathroom, there's requirements for bathroom facilities, and all of that. So there's a lot more amenities that you must provide to be licensed by public health. That doesn't mean that you should not be talking to the applicant about plans for those things. However, public health doesn't reach into that until you get to that threshold of 5.
Do you know what the annual fee is on that? Any,
That I do not know what that licensing
had
fee
she
is.
discussed that with you?
She does not know.
Just curious.
I do have a commercial well, and, I mean, I'm not, especially for the Airbnb piece, like, my septic is fairly new and it's up to date, and it's covered for the bedrooms that are in the house, and not used as much as, it's bigger than what's needed really at the moment.
Do you plan on providing bathroom facilities for campers, or?
No, if I had people camp, like bring a camper, it wouldn't be like a long-term thing. It would be a day or two, and they
They
would
just
take
bring
care
a
of their
tent,
own
though.
stuff.
They don't have much for facilities there.
For a tent, so I'm set up, I'm a 2-story house, that there's a downstairs bathroom, and they would be allowed to use that bathroom.
Oh, so you would provide
Yes,
that?
yes, there would be a bathroom for them. But it's just that if it got busy, where those were getting booked all the time, I would still get a porta potty, because I wouldn't want the traffic and I'd like it neat and clean, so.
But again, Amy, clarifying, there's no requirements for any of that facilities of any kind?
Not from a public health standpoint.
Okay.
So
But it could be a condition?
it could be a condition, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Brent, do you have anything?
My question was much the same as Dave had brought up there regarding providing a porta potty for tents and/or people that might show up to camp overnight. I understand if you have one tent, for them to come into the house to use the facilities is one thing, but if you have four with two people, that's potentially 8 people additional to your own use. It may be it may be wise to have a porta potty on site, and would you be opposed to having that as a condition for us to consider as we move forward?
I'm not opposed to it as a condition. My only concern with it is, if I end up not having anybody tent the rest of this summer, or there's a couple, then it's not feasible for me to spend the money on getting a porta potty. If I get booked up, I can rent one for the weekend, or, something to that effect, but I don't foresee, there's not a lot of the summer left, and I'd like to be able to offer that for the ones that are coming, in case they have other family or whatever, but I just don't foresee it. I'd like to be able to offer it and see how it goes, and see if I even want to continue it before I totally go out and spend the money buying a porta potty.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
Just a couple questions. I know the bathroom facility is one thing. How about hand washing and food preparation for?
They can come in the house for that too. I would essentially run the campsite the same as the bed and breakfast, so the whole house is shared.
Airbnb.
Or the Airbnb, the whole house is shared,
Okay.
yeah. And I have removed bed and breakfast off of all of my website and that stuff. There's a couple spots that I've had a hard time with it, because Google just catches the old name and stuff, but it does stay Farm Stay Now or Experience.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm assuming it's not always related parties that would be there. So I mean, if it's one big happy, sharing a facility is one thing, but if it's two unhappies, that would not be, is it a 2-bathroom house? Would you share in the facility too?
Yep, where I have it advertised, it's all very clear, so, there's 2 bedrooms upstairs that share a bathroom, and that's exclusive to them.
Oh.
So they know when they come in that they're sharing a bathroom. Yep, there's hand soap and all that's provided, as well as
They might be sharing a
antibacterial.
kitchen.
But then, and everybody shares the kitchen, so very seldom do they actually use it. A lot of times they're eating with family or whatever, but a lot of times people will have coffee in the morning and sit around and chat, and it's more of a gathering place than actual food preparation.
Yeah, by involving public health, I'm thinking you're also protecting yourself by going through the licensing and providing what is needed, and providing your customers with what public health feels is needed. Certainly, I don't know what you do about insurance. That's got to be a whole other issue.
Right.
Maybe you haven't worried about that, but somebody will someday.
Right.
I don't know that we'd be doing you any favors by granting a request without, public health involvement.
Right.
Well, I'll kind of speak on that for a minute. I'm gonna assume this is gonna be the same as like we have at the fairgrounds. Public health, and you're gonna have stainless steel stuff. You're gonna have to have all that high-priced equipment for something like this. I don't know, unless it gets bigger. I know where you're going, Dave, but if they would make you, that'd be above and beyond what you're gonna even make. You wouldn't be able to
Right.
operate. I know that, but I can't speak for public health. I'm just saying that when you get into the food service part of it, I just know from what we do that, yeah, then everything's gotta be, it's expensive. So but that's.
Right, and that's
so-
why I'm not doing the food service, because it's not feasible. I mean, this is my only income for the most part, and,
Oh, Mr. Chair, again,
Go ahead, Dave.
do you feel you've done enough research for this? You want to move ahead with this tonight, or?
I would like to move ahead with it
Okay.
tonight, yeah. I guess I feel like if it gets to the point that, I mean, I only have so much room to have campsites. It's my yard, so I'm not gonna have a ton of people in wrecking my yard and, it's a pretty,
I'm just thinking it's expensive
There's
to come back
gardens
here,
and there's-
with another
no,
request.
yeah, I was thinking about that too, and that's why I asked about, but if it's like that where it's gonna change, even if I'm not serving food, that then all of a sudden I have to have all the stainless steel, everything, and then it's not feasible for me, at least not unless I expand it a bunch, and I don't really wanna do that.
Okay, Amy, this question's for you maybe. So if this would pass and go through, and if she'd want to expand and get over the 4 and go up to 5, does she have to do anything with us or just with the, health department?
Great question. It depends on how you grant the permit. So if you grant the permit to have up to 4 sites, and she wanted to add a 5th, 6th, or 7th, then she'd need to come amend the conditional use permit and then also pursue the licensing with public health. If you left it open-ended or capped it at up to this many, she still would need, if she met the public health licensing threshold, she'd still need to do that, but wouldn't need to come in here. So it depends on how specific you want to be with the permit language.
Okay, so you understand what we just talked about?
I believe so.
What's your future thoughts then?
So if through zoning, it's say up to 8, but I'm only doing 4 now, then I'm still fine until or if I decide to expand, then I need to get a hold of public health and say I'd like to do 6 or something.
Correct. And Mr. Chair, I would highly recommend if one arm of county is gonna say you can have up to 8, then I would suggest that you have some language in there that up to that she must get that licensing, because we would be in conflict with another department if we're granting her to have up to 8 sites, but would need licensing from another to have that. So I think you would want to craft that carefully if you decide to leave the door open for more sites without having to come back to amend the permit.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Can it be written so I'm approved for 4? Like I'm currently approved for 4 or up to 8 with public licensing?
That's what I'm working on right now.
Okay. I mean, I assume that's kind of what you were saying, but
Correct.
just wanted to be sure that was.
Mr. Chair, in the
Go ahead, Dave.
there's no conflict with ACUB here, I assume.
No, Mr. Chair, I did reach out to the Soil and Water Conservation District, and all of this activity is within the exception area. So let me get back to, and I'll zoom in on this parcel. So this area right here is the exception area for her parcel, and that is what's happening there, and so she's fine, and commercial use can happen there. The rest of this parcel is not proposed to be utilized in any way for what she's proposing. There won't be campsites there or anything. So it's fine, according to her.
And ACUB is fine with people romping through the woods, obviously, on trails and whatever.
Yeah, the purpose of ACUB is really to limit residential development, and this really isn't what that is.
Yeah. Even outside of the ACUB zone, it isn't.
Correct.
Yep, all right.
And just
Thanks
as a
for clarifying that.
clarification, when I had ACUB done, they know, they already, like, the trails that are on the property were already done, and that's written in that my trails are okay. For the most part, people don't go out there anyways because it's pastured for my horses, and I don't allow them to go in with the horses. They can go down and pet the horses over the fence. At times I'll take a horse out for them if it's a good safe horse, but they're not allowed in the pens.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also the other part, there's a lot of swamp. I mean, not necessarily swamp, but lower land, so.
Okay, so we're gonna move along, so Brent, he wanted kind of a condition with a outhouse, so I don't know, I'm gonna propose this. If you have 4, so you'd be full. That you could, would it be okay if we have a condition that if you have 4, when you get 4 booked, you have a porta potty?
Sure.
Okay, they fine with that, Brent?
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to be, I think that's kind of a hard one to police or regulate.
You can't police and regulate nothing when you get out in the woods, so.
No, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think the condition that I was thinking is if we're going to grant this, I would be looking at if there's going to be people camping there, there should be, because we want to protect our groundwater, and that's part of what we do. And so I think part of that is making sure that there's a facility outside for those that choose to camp there, so they're not urinating on the lawn.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I think the other point to that is the septic system might be sized for the number of bedrooms in the home, but when you look at 4 campsites with that's essentially the addition of 4 bedrooms. And so I would suggest also that we look at the sizing of that septic system as well, because if that'll be offered for use by, well, and it could be, if they have a large tent, it could be more
Yep.
than 8 people. That's quite a bit of additional burden on the septic system.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
So I guess I would propose, if we're looking at a condition, that I would be looking at this having a porta potty on site.
Okay. Okay, and then I had another condition. And I don't like conditions, but that we'd be voting on this as 8. And the condition would be once she hits 5, she needs them permits from public health. And that's on your honor thing, because then if you get caught or somebody squeals and you come in, you lose your permit if you went over without getting the health. Okay, so that would be kind of my condition to allow you to expand in the future to 8, but you have to get at 5, you have to go and get the permits.
Yeah, and at this point, I really don't intend to expand that much because, like I said, it's my yard. I mean, there's only so many spots. The X's on the drawing
Yep.
are like options, but not all of them would even work necessarily at the same time. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at what, I did clear a little spot in front of the house, but to have people at all those spots, I would have to do a lot of work.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Dave.
and I assume once the 5 campsites kicks in, public health then takes care of sanitation and all that kind of thing, the requirements of porta potties or whatever.
Yes, then that kicks in the facilities that you need to provide, and generally it's a shower house. You need to provide not only bathroom facilities, but bathing facilities as well, and they size that based on the number of sites that you have.
And so far, the only requests I've gotten to stay was like one family reunion asked if they could have people come with them. And then I had both rooms rented for some people doing the bike-a-thon in Freedom. And they had 2 friends that wanted to stay in tents. So, I mean, I don't foresee probably a lot of tenting. I'm already booked for this year for the most part, so.
Okay, let's move on to our questions. Will the use The use will not put excessive burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. Brent?
You know, this is off an existing driveway. I don't believe it's gonna put any excess burden on roadways, utilities. Using the existing driveway, it's coming off a tar road. There's no parks or schools in the area that are affected by this. And it's 20 acres for a farm stay.
Okay. Dave, you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
I'm good too. Okay, number 2, the request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Mr. Stish, if you could answer that one.
Well, much of the surrounding property is ACUB, which, cannot be developed. And the area that the applicant proposes to use is outside of her ACUB easement and will meet all the conditions of ACUB. So, really, no. And there were letters sent out and no input from neighbors, so I'm thinking that won't make much of an impact on the neighborhood or the way the neighbors use their property. It's a mixture of rural residential and ag. It's a kind of a fit right in thing.
Okay, Brent, you have anything to add?
Just in furtherance of that, it's rural ag, and this is, bringing people in that want that rural ag experience in a farm stay.
Okay, I agree. Okay, question 3. The use and opinion of the planning commission is reasonably related to the existing land use and environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. Reasonably related, yeah. It could be the neighbor down the road. Every weekend they have more tents than that, but with the porta potties, with the bathroom facility she has, with the porta potties, them types of things, I think, yeah, definitely, groundwater and surface water, they won't be affected. Maybe a couple campfires, that's not as much as even a wood stove, so, air quality, basically, I think, most people wouldn't really know it's there, I guess. Somebody must have, because you're here, but I would think it would blend in. So I think our groundwater, surface water, and air quality is going to be just fine. Anybody have anything to add to that?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I was going to ask this earlier, but how close is the nearest neighbor? Nearest residence?
Ways. I'm right in the center of 2, so one's at the very corner. I do have one straight across the road, but they're backing around in the trees. Or almost straight across, and then the other one's probably,
Quarter mile both directions.
yeah.
It looks like, yeah.
I was gonna say a quarter mile, but that seemed like it might be a little bit much. I
And
don't.
looks like you'd be out of the line of sight of the nearest
Oh, yeah,
neighbor.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Brent, you have anything to add?
Nothing further.
Okay, question 4. The use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purpose of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. Brent?
Yeah, I think this is consistent. It's ag property, you're spotlighting rural agriculture and the farm experience with the farm stay. It's rural, it's 20 acres. We're talking less than 5, no more than 4. So I think it's located in an area that's consistent with the purposes of our zoning.
Okay, Mr. Stish, you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Yeah, just say with promoting the ag in the ag area, or the ag zoning, definitely that helps. So that's consistent. I guess it's allowable with a permit, so yes. Question 5, the use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or the water plan of the county. Dave?
If I look at the staff report, the goals and objectives that are stated there, again, you know, it's ag and we're promoting ag. I think the applicant, her intent is to promote the rural areas and their farm animals there, and I would guess her customers would have a good experience there and relate better to ag. That might be a little stretch, but then if I look a little further, you know, identify areas that are appropriate for ag and limited residential and commercial uses, and this certainly fits with the other uses in the area. Call attention to physical and human resources, where she's attempting to accommodate people that are in the area for other events and keep them here in the area rather than housing somewhere else, probably. Support local entrepreneurs. She's definitely got an entrepreneurial spirit. Good luck to her. Adequate infrastructure and services. I think we've done that with, you know, the minimum of the that condition of the one porta potty and public health kicking in after a certain point. Yeah, so it's consistent with all the goals that are, I could go on down the line if you want me to.
We're good.
All right, we're good.
I do have a quick question about the porta potty. Is there any specifics on the porta potty? I mean, like, does it have to be a certain size, certain?
One that you'd, excuse me,
I've
Go
never
ahead, Miss-
needed
one
one,
that
so I've
you'd
never
rent-
really looked at them.
one that you'd rent from a licensed
Right.
person, you know, and then they would empty it and clean it, and,
Right. Or I could buy a bigger one and then have
but
it.
then you'd have to have a contract with a licensed
clean it,
persons to maintain it, and I think maybe we need to make that clear in the condition,
Yeah.
you know, so
Okay.
it's a good question.
Like I said, I don't foresee a lot of people. I mean, I have 7 horses going to the bathroom around the yard.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So before we vote, we'll just, right, so we know when we're voting on our conditions. So one is a porta potty that's serviced by a licensed porta potty service. And then up to 8 camp spots with the condition of 5, at 5 needs public health permitting. Okay,
question.
okay, one more and then we're gonna vote.
Yep, the porta potty, I can either rent one or buy one and have it serviced, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that
Yep.
either one was okay.
Yep. Okay. Here we go. We're gonna vote. Number 1, the use will not put an excessive burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. Brent?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes,
Myself, Clint Catherine's yes. Number 2, the request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Dave Stish.
yes,
Myself, Clint Catherine's yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Okay. Question 3, the use in the opinion of the planning commission is reasonably related to the existing land use and the environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. Myself, Clint Catherine is yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
yes,
Okay, question 4. The use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
yes,
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Question 5. The use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or the water plan of the county. Dave Stish.
yes,
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like all the questions were answered in affirmative, so I guess I'd look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
I'd make a motion that we approve this with the two aforementioned conditions regarding the porta potty and the up to 4 after 5 public health. And recommend this go to the county board for review on August 9th, is that right?
Yep.
Second that.
Okay. Motion made in second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. So we approve this for recommendation for the commissioners to approve, so, they'll have their meeting on August 9th. You can attend if you want, you don't have to, right?
Correct, that's a morning meeting. They may have some questions for you, so I'd encourage you to be there.
Do you know what time?
Generally, their meeting starts at 9. I'm never on the agenda right away. And so that agenda will come out on Friday, and so I can give you a better idea of time.
Email me or,
Yeah, absolutely.
perfect.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay, so now we got the minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, I'll second. Motion made and second to approve the, let's see the date, July 19th minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, minutes approved. Any new business?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Old business, anybody?
No.
Okay. I guess we can adjourn. Somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.